Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive, where, well, we take a deep dive into a stack of sources you provided.
It's always exciting to see what we get to explore.
It is, and today is no exception. Today, we're going to be tackling a particularly intriguing question, and that is, are we alone in the universe?
One of the biggest questions out there.
Yeah, it really is. But here's the twist. We're not going to be hearing the arguments from, scientists or philosophers or even conspiracy theorists.
Right.
Instead, we're going to be getting the arguments from two AI.
Interesting.
One programmed to be a denialist and the other a positivist.
What's fascinating about this approach, I think, is that we can analyze the structure of their arguments, the scientific evidence they choose to use, and how they engage with each other's points.
Yeah.
It's like having a front row seat to a debate between two incredibly well-informed, albeit artificial, minds.
Exactly. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to explore the vastness of space, the possibilities of life as we don't know it, and maybe even encounter a hypothetical alien or two along the way.
Sounds fun.
All right, so why don't we start with our denialist AI?
Sure.
And they decided to kick things off with the Fermi Paradox.
Of course. A classic.
Yeah, a classic argument against the likelihood of extraterrestrial intelligence. So for anyone who needs a refresher, the Fermi Paradox basically asks, if intelligent life is supposedly so common, why haven't we found any evidence of it yet?
Exactly. And our AI really leans into this point. They highlight the just mind-boggling scale of the universe, reminding us that there are billions upon billions of stars out there,
Right.
many of which are likely orbited by planets. Given those numbers, it seems statistically improbable that we're the only intelligent life to have ever existed.
But then they turn the argument on its head, right? And they say, well, if there are so many potential civilizations out there, why haven't we heard from any of them?
Exactly. And to illustrate this point, they use this really interesting thought experiment. Imagine compressing the entire history of Earth into a single year.
Okay.
On this scale, humans only appear in the last few minutes of December 31st.
Wow.
Right.
That really puts things into perspective.
It does. And then the AI asks, what are the chances of another civilization being at that same exact point in their development?
Right. It really makes you think about all the factors that have to align just right for a civilization to not only arise, but also survive long enough to develop interstellar travel.
Exactly.
There's a whole other hurdle.
And even then, the vast distances between stars would make communication and travel incredibly challenging.
So the sheer scale of the universe, which at first seems to support the idea of extraterrestrial life, is then used to argue against it. That's a pretty clever approach.
Yeah, it's very clever. And the denialist AI doesn't stop there.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. They then bring up what they call the Great Silence, which refers to the lack of any confirmed signals or evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence.
Right.
Despite decades of searching.
Yes. I mean, we've sent out all these signals into space, and we've been listening intently for any, sign of a response. But so far, crickets.
Exactly. And the AI points to the famous wow signal as a prime example.
I remember that.
It was this incredibly strong burst of radio waves detected back in 1977. And for a while, everyone thought it might be it. Like, this is it.
Yeah. A message.
A message.
First contact.
Right, from an alien civilization.
But it turned out to be a dud, right?
Well, we still don't know for sure what caused it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it never repeated, and no other explanation has been confirmed.
Huh. So it's still a mystery.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's one of the few times we've come close to detecting something that could be interpreted as a sign of extraterrestrial intelligence.
Right.
And even that turned out to be inconclusive.
Exactly. And the AI uses this to highlight the history of SETI research, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Despite all our efforts, we just haven't found any concrete evidence.
But what about the argument that we might simply be looking for the wrong kind of signals?
Yeah.
What if alien civilizations communicate in ways we haven't even imagined?
That's a good point. And it's one that the denialist AI anticipates. They counter this by emphasizing the universality of physics.
Okay.
The laws of nature are the same throughout the universe.
Right.
So they argue it's logical to assume that any advanced civilization would be utilizing those same laws in ways we could detect.
So they're saying that even if the specifics of their technology are different, the underlying principles would be recognizable.
Exactly. They're making a case for the idea that there would be some common ground, some fundamental aspects of physics that any technologically advanced civilization would have to grapple with.
So we're not just looking for any random signal. We're looking for signals that adhere to the laws of physics as we understand them, which would suggest a level of technological sophistication we could, at least in theory, recognize.
Precisely. And it's a pretty compelling argument.
Yeah, I could see that.
But before we move on to the positivist AI's counter-arguments, the denialist AI has one more point to make.
Oh,
They want to address the idea that UFO sightings and unexplained phenomena could be evidence of extraterrestrial visits.
Ah, yes. The classic alien encounter story. But the AI doesn't buy it.
Not quite. They argue that most, if not all, of these reported events have plausible natural explanations.
Okay.
They remind us that humans tend to jump to the conclusion of, aliens
Right.
when faced with the unknown.
Fill in the blank. Yeah.
But that doesn't make it the most likely answer.
So they're advocating for a more skeptical approach.
Exactly. They're saying we need to be careful not to mistake the unexplained for the extraterrestrial. And to illustrate this point, they bring up a very specific example.
Oh.
The strange case of the dimming star, KIC 8462852.
Okay, I've heard of this. This was the star that had everyone talking about the possibility of a Dyson swarm.
Yes.
Right.
A Dyson swarm is this hypothetical megastructure built by an advanced civilization to harness energy from a star.
It's basically a massive array of solar panels surrounding a star, right?
Exactly. And when astronomers observed this star dimming in a way that couldn't be easily explained, some people thought it might be evidence of a Dyson swarm.
Which would have been pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But I remember that it turned out to have a more mundane explanation, right?
Exactly. As scientists investigated further, they found that the dimming was most likely caused by natural phenomena like dust or a swarm of comets passing between the star and Earth.
So the AI is using this example to illustrate that even seemingly inexplicable phenomena often have natural explanations.
Precisely. They're urging us to remember the importance of skepticism and the need for extraordinary evidence when dealing with claims of extraterrestrial life.
That's a good point. It's easy to get carried away with speculation, especially when dealing with such a captivating topic.
Indeed. But the search for extraterrestrial life demands scientific rigor.
Right.
We need to carefully examine the evidence and explore all possible explanations before jumping to conclusions.
All right, so that's the denialist AI's opening statement. They've laid out a pretty compelling case, raising some serious doubts about the likelihood of finding intelligent life beyond Earth. But I have a feeling our positivist AI has some strong counter-arguments up their sleeve.
Oh, absolutely. They've been taking notes and are ready to present their case for why we shouldn't give up hope just yet.
Well, I'm definitely eager to hear what they have to say. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back with the positivist AI's perspective after a quick break.
See you soon. Our denialist AI certainly presented a well-structured argument.
Yep, they did.
But now it's time to hear from the positivist AI.
Okay.
And how they counter those points.
I'm ready for some optimism. That denialist AI's focus on the vastness of the universe had me feeling pretty small and insignificant.
Well, the positivist AI starts their argument by embracing that vastness.
Okay.
They argue that the sheer scale of the universe, with its billions upon billions of stars,
right,
and likely even more planets, actually makes the existence of extraterrestrial life statistically probable.
So they're taking the same basic facts, but interpreting them in a completely different way.
Exactly. The denialist AI focused on the difficulty of finding another civilization, given the vastness of space and time. But the positivist AI says, hold on, with this many stars and planets, even if the odds of life arising are incredibly small, wouldn't it be statistically almost impossible for it not to have happened at least once somewhere else?
Okay, I can see how that flips the script, but do they have any concrete numbers to back that up?
They do. They cite a study from 2020.
Oh, okay.
That estimated there could be as many as 36 currently active communicating intelligent civilizations in our galaxy alone.
36. That's a lot more than I would have guessed.
Right. And that's just in our galaxy. When you factor in the billions of other galaxies out there, the numbers become truly mind-boggling.
So they're basically saying that the universe is so big that even if life is rare, it's bound to exist somewhere else simply because of the sheer number of possibilities.
Exactly. And to drive this point home, they use an analogy. Imagine all the grains of sand on all the beaches on Earth.
Okay, that's a lot of sand.
It is. And the positivist AI points out that the number of planets would be even greater than that. They argue that to think all of them could be lifeless, given that incredible scale, seems far-fetched.
I have to admit that's a pretty convincing analogy. It makes the universe seem less empty and more like a vast cosmic ocean teeming with possibilities.
Right. And the positivist AI then challenges another key point made by the denialist AI.
Okay.
The concept of habitable zones.
Ah, yes. The idea that a planet has to be just the right distance from its star to have liquid water and potentially support life.
Precisely. And the denialist AI argued that this narrows down the possibilities considerably.
Right.
But the positivist AI argues that our understanding of habitable zones is constantly evolving.
How so?
Well, they point to the discovery of extremophiles right here on Earth.
Oh, okay.
These are organisms that thrive in conditions that we once thought were completely inhospitable to life.
Like those weird creatures that live in boiling hot springs or deep sea vents.
Exactly. They survive in extreme temperatures, pressures, and chemical environments that would kill most other organisms. And their existence suggests that life might be more adaptable and resilient than we previously thought.
So maybe we need to broaden our definition of what constitutes a habitable zone.
That's what the positivist AI is suggesting. They argue that life might not always require the same conditions as Earth-based life. Maybe there are forms of life out there that can exist in environments that we currently consider uninhabitable.
So what we think of as a habitable zone might just be one type of habitable zone,
Right.
specific to life as we know it.
Exactly. And to further illustrate this point, they bring up recent research on exoplanets.
Those are planets that orbit stars outside of our solar system, right?
Correct. And in recent years, we've discovered thousands of exoplanets, some of which are located in what we would traditionally consider habitable zones.
Right.
But the positivist AI highlights the case of Kepler-186,
Okay.
a planet that's almost the same size as Earth and orbits within the habitable zone of a red dwarf star.
Okay. So on paper, this planet ticks a lot of the boxes for potential habitability.
It does. But here's the thing. Red dwarf stars are much cooler and smaller than our sun, and Kepler-186f orbits its star much closer than Earth orbits the sun.
So the conditions on that planet would be quite different from Earth.
Yes, and this is exactly the point the positivist AI is making. They're saying that even within what we call a habitable zone, there's a wide range of possible conditions that could potentially support life, even if that life looks very different from what we're used to.
So we might be limiting ourselves by only looking for planets that are very similar to Earth.
Precisely. And they go on to mention ongoing research into alternative biochemistries.
What does that mean?
Well, life as we know it is based on carbon and water.
Right.
But what if there are other elements or solvents that could support life?
Like what?
Well, some scientists have speculated about the possibility of silicon-based life, or life that uses ammonia as a solvent instead of water.
Huh.
These are just hypothetical examples, but the point is that we might need to expand our understanding of what life could look like if we want to find it elsewhere in the universe.
That's pretty fascinating. It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle using only half the pieces.
Exactly. And the positivist AI argues that by being open to these alternative possibilities, we increase our chances of finding evidence of extraterrestrial life. And they then directly address the great silence argument made by the denialist AI.
Which, if I recall correctly, is the lack of any confirmed signals from alien civilizations.
Right. And the positivist AI counters this by saying that just because we haven't found them yet doesn't mean they're not out there. They argue that we might not have been looking in the right places or with the right tools.
Okay, I could see that. I mean, we've only been actively searching for extraterrestrial intelligence for a few decades, which is, a blink of an eye in cosmic terms.
Exactly. And our technology is constantly improving.
Right.
New telescopes and data analysis techniques are being developed all the time.
Yeah.
Which means we're becoming more sensitive to potential signals from other civilizations.
So maybe it's just a matter of time before we pick up something.
That's what the positivist AI is hoping for. They're optimistic that with continued effort and advancements in technology, we'll eventually find the evidence we're looking for.
Okay. So they've countered the The Fermi Paradox and the Great Silence arguments. What else do they have?
Well, their next point focuses on the history of life on Earth.
You mean the fact that life arose on our planet billions of years ago?
Yeah.
And has managed to survive and evolve despite numerous challenges.
Exactly. And the positivist AI uses this as evidence of life's resilience and adaptability. They argue that if life can arise and thrive on a planet like Earth, which has experienced asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, and all sorts of other cataclysmic events, then it's likely that life can also exist on other planets, even if those planets have different conditions.
That's a good point. I mean, life on Earth has been through a lot, and it's still here.
Right. And they emphasize that for billions of years, life on Earth was primarily microbial. It wasn't until relatively recently, in geological terms, that complex multicellular life evolved.
So they're suggesting that microbial life might be much more common in the universe than complex life.
Exactly. And they point out that our current methods of searching for extraterrestrial intelligence are primarily focused on finding signs of technologically advanced civilizations.
Right.
But maybe we should also be looking for signs of simpler life forms.
That makes sense. We might be missing a lot if we only focus on finding civilizations that are at a similar level of technological development as ourselves.
Exactly. And they leave us with a thought-provoking question. If life can find a way to exist in the harshest conditions on Earth, then imagine the possibilities on countless other worlds.
That's a powerful thought. It reminds us that we should never underestimate the power of life to adapt and find a way to survive, even in the most unlikely of places. Okay, so we've heard from both sides of this fascinating debate. What are your thoughts on the arguments presented by these AI? I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed with those AI.
Yeah, they really dug deep.
They did. It's amazing how they were able to take those complex scientific concepts and present them in such a clear and engaging way. It really felt like I was listening to a debate between two brilliant minds.
Yeah, I know. And it's fascinating to see how they each approached the same evidence and reached such different conclusions. The denialist AI focused on the challenges and the uncertainties.
Yeah. While the positivist AI highlighted the vastness of the universe and the incredible adaptability of life.
I have to admit that that denialist AI had me questioning my own beliefs for a while there. I mean, that Fermi Paradox is a pretty compelling argument. But then the positivist AI came in with that sand analogy.
Right.
And it just blew my mind. It really shifted my perspective on the scale of the universe and the sheer number of possibilities out there.
That analogy really underscores how much we still don't know about the universe.
Yeah.
We're constantly making new discoveries, pushing the boundaries of our understanding, and who knows what we'll find as we continue to explore.
The positivist AI's point about extremophiles also really stuck with me. It's incredible to think that life can exist in such extreme environments.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what other forms of life might be out there, just waiting to be discovered?
It challenges us to expand our definition of what we even consider life. We might be too focused on finding life that resembles what we're familiar with here on Earth.
But what if life elsewhere has evolved in completely different ways based on different chemistries and principles?
Yeah, it's like we're looking for a specific type of fish in a vast ocean.
Right.
When there might be all sorts of other incredible creatures swimming around us that we're not even aware of.
Exactly. And the positivist AI's point about the relatively short time we've been actively searching for extraterrestrial intelligence is also important to consider. It's like we've just dipped our toes into the cosmic ocean. There's so much more to explore.
So where does this leave us? I mean, are we any closer to answering the question of whether we're alone in the universe?
I think this deep dive has shown us that the answer is far from simple.
Yeah.
There's strong evidence to support both sides of the argument, but ultimately I think the search itself is what's most important. It's about pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and exploring the vast unknown.
I agree. Even if we never find definitive proof of extraterrestrial life, the journey of exploration is incredibly valuable. It forces us to question our assumptions, to think outside the box.
Right.
And to appreciate the wonder and the mystery of the universe we live in.
And who knows, maybe someday in the not too distant future, we'll make a discovery that will change everything.
Yeah.
A discovery that will prove once and for all that we are not alone.
Well, until then, we'll keep listening, keep searching, and keep our minds open to the possibilities. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the search for extraterrestrial life. We hope it's left you with as many questions as answers, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.